We often find ourselves inexplicably drawn to people who mirror the dark, twisted aspects of our own personalities. And yet, we can't quite put our finger on why this seems to be an inescapable truth about human connections. Behind this unsettling phenomenon lies a deeply ingrained emotional pattern that threatens to upend everything we thought we knew about love and relationships. If you've ever been inexplicably drawn to someone who eerily reflects the worst aspects of your own emotional baggage, you know the feeling of both repulsion and morbid fascination that comes with it. In this video, we'll peel back the layers to expose the insidious pattern behind why we seem to attract people who perfectly reflect the unresolved emotional insecurities that we've long struggled to confront about ourselves. When we're drawn to individuals who mirror our deepest insecurities, it's often a cry for validation, a desperate attempt to confirm our own self-worth. We search for people we can mold into a reflection of our unresolved emotional wounds, hoping to recreate the dynamics that haunt us within ourselves. The truth is, when we're insecure, we're driven by a primal need for control, and the most efficient way to feel secure is to recreate the familiar patterns of childhood within our adult relationships. We unconsciously attract people who resonate with our unresolved emotional issues, because it allows us to exercise control over the chaos and uncertainty within ourselves. At the core of our attraction to these mirrored individuals lies a complex interplay between fear and ego. We crave the familiarity of our past because it's a known quantity, and the familiarity brings a sense of comfort. This comfort, however, often manifests as a self-perpetuating cycle of self-deception, where we convince ourselves that this time, it'll be different, that we'll finally resolve the issues that have haunted us our entire lives. But what we're really seeking is a chance to heal, to confront the wounds that have been festering within us for decades. We're searching for the courage to face our deepest insecurities, to acknowledge the fears that have been manipulating us all along. When we find ourselves drawn to someone who mirrors our unresolved emotional issues, we're presented with an opportunity for radical self-awareness. A chance to confront the shadows within ourselves and finally break free from the cycle of self-deception that's been holding us back. Our childhood may be over, but the lingering wounds and unfulfilled desires that defined it can continue to haunt us, influencing the way we navigate our adult relationships. In an attempt to recapture the validation and security we once lacked, we often find ourselves drawn to people who mirror the very same emotional pain that we never properly resolved. This pattern is often rooted in our desperate need for a sense of control, a way to feel like we're capable of handling the very same chaos that left us so vulnerable in the first place. But beneath the surface of attraction lies a more primal driver, the desire to prove to ourselves and to the world that we're worthy of love and acceptance, not based on who we are, but on what we've learned to expect. As a result, we may settle for relationships that confirm our deepest insecurities, because on some level, it's easier to believe that these toxic dynamics are a reflection of our own worthlessness than to confront the pain of being genuinely unhappy. It's a vicious cycle of self-deception, where we convince ourselves that we're searching for love when, in reality, we're just seeking a faint echo of the validation we never received as children. Here are the 6 insightful spoken sentences for the section, The Narcissism of Vulnerability: Why You're Drawn to People Who Trigger You. Our deepest insecurities often masquerade as vulnerabilities, which we unwittingly use as a siren song to attract people who mirror back to us the very fears we're desperate to conceal. When we're drawn to those who trigger us, it's usually a cry for validation, a desperate attempt to prove to ourselves that we're still in the game, still worthy of love and attention. But what we fail to realize is that this attraction is often a subtle attempt to control the narrative, to dictate the terms of our relationships, and to impose a sense of normalcy on those who might actually be pushing us towards growth. In other words, our attraction to people who trigger us is less about healing and more about preserving our ego's carefully crafted illusions about ourselves. Of course, we'll tell ourselves it's about confronting our demons, about finally facing the truth about our emotional shortcomings. But the truth is, it's usually about avoiding the possibility of being seen, of being truly known for who we are, with all our vulnerabilities and flaws intact. The more we're drawn to people who trigger us, the more we risk becoming trapped in a cycle of self-deception, convinced that we're the ones doing the healing, when in fact, we're just digging a deeper hole, one relationship at a time. We often seek out people who mirror our unresolved emotional insecurities, not because we want to confront and resolve them, but because it gives us a sense of control over a situation that's inherently chaotic. When we're drawn to someone who's emotionally unavailable or toxic, it's usually because deep down we're desperate to prove to ourselves that we're capable of handling rejection or abuse. We're not searching for validation from others, we're desperately seeking validation from our own fragmented selves. At its core, insecure attraction is about power struggles, not genuine connections. We're not attracted to who people are, but to how they make us feel like we're still relevant, still desired, still worthy. This is a toxic dynamic that reinforces our insecurities and prevents us from ever truly healing. The ego's need for external validation is what drives us to pursue people who are likely to disappoint or hurt us. We use our desires as a means to distract ourselves from our own emotional pain, rather than confronting and resolving it. Insecure attraction is a pattern of self-deception, where we convince ourselves that we're worthy and deserving of love, when in reality we're just trying to recreate patterns that are familiar, yet ultimately toxic. This is a cycle that's virtually impossible to break, unless we're willing to confront the underlying emotional pain that's driving our desires. Ultimately, we're not searching for love, we're searching for a sense of security and acceptance that we were denied in our formative years. This is a journey that requires bravery, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront our deepest fears and insecurities. When we attract a person who mirrors our unresolved emotional insecurity, it's not just a coincidence or a chance meeting, but rather a subconscious attempt to recreate a familiar pattern, one that provides a sense of validation, no matter how painful or toxic it may be. Our ego often perceives this mirrored image as a reflection of our own worth, and in an attempt to validate ourselves, we become drawn to this person, not realizing that it's actually an attempt to bypass our own emotional growth. We may rationalize that we're in control, that we can handle whatever emotions this person brings into our life, but what we're really doing is trying to control the narrative, to force our way out of emotional insecurity through the validation of someone else's opinion. What's often at play is a deep-seated fear of being abandoned, unlovable, or unworthy, and by attracting a person who mirrors our insecurities, we're trying to prove to ourselves that we're not that unlovable, that we're still deserving of love and acceptance. But the truth is, this attempt to recreate a familiar pattern often leads to patterns of codependency and enabling, where we become trapped in a cycle of emotional manipulation, and it's only by acknowledging and working through these unresolved insecurities that we can break free from the cycle and take control of our own emotional well-being. Thanks for joining me on this deeply personal exploration of human behavior, and remember that by acknowledging and working through our own emotional insecurities, we can break the cycle of attracting similar energies into our lives. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are your observations on how this pattern has played out in your own life? And if you want to dive even deeper into the mysteries of the human psyche, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and join me for more in-depth conversations on psychology and personal growth.